the Know Your Gear podcast. Today's episode of the Know Your Gear podcast is brought to you by Patreon members, channel members, and viewers who like and subscribe. Thank you for making this possible.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Know Your Gear podcast, episode 402, and welcome to Friday, what is this, February 21st. There you go. So hope you all had a fantastic Valentine's Day last Friday, and let's get started with some cool guitar stuff. We're going to have a guitar of the week. Today's probably going to be a funny guitar of the week, I'm hoping. I spilt water. So right now I'm cleaning up the part of the water I forgot that I didn't see underneath the keyboard. So that's what happens when you not pay attention and you pour water. So anyways, I hope everybody had a fantastic week. Ready for talking about guitar stuff. A couple things to just always announce is that if you see somebody with a blue name and a wrench, that means our moderator, and they're just kind of field questions, send links, all kinds of cool stuff like that. And also, this show, as you heard, is sponsored by Patreon members and channel members. Thank you so much for 400 episodes of sponsoring the channel. All right. What do we want to get into first? I got a lot of stuff. I'm kind of excited about Guitar of the Week this week, but I'm not going to start that. Okay, so let's start with the first question I saw. This is the early riser question, the first question I seen, which was from Gary, who says, hey, what are manufacturers like Eart, whatever you want to call them, doing differently with the fret ends? Are they rounded? Are they rounding them before the frets are pressed in? And why don't other manufacturers do this? So what they're calling them is semi-hemispherical frets. I have a bunch of videos on that. First of all, in almost all of the eArt videos of my deep dives, I take a second to show you how they make those frets. But what I did, and I'm just verifying, Gary, before I say that, I'm pretty sure, and if not, I will make sure it's done this weekend. There is a YouTube short of how to do it. I made a short video how they do hemispherical or semi-hemispherical frets. So, and I do know for a fact that I don't see it, so maybe I didn't release that video. At least I'm not seeing the catalog, but that doesn't mean it's not out there. Then I would have definitely released it under Instagram and Facebook for sure. So that's where but usually when I post that, I'll post it here too. So I will post that as well. I would show you, it's funny enough, I would show you, but I'm always afraid to run different streaming internets at the same time. It seems like it crashes things. But yeah, I'm looking. I will make sure to do it. So what they do is, yes, they round off those frets like I show you in the videos. What they do is they use a tool. Actually, let me show you the tool because there's a tool they use for that. So let's go to StewMac. Like I said, when in doubt, always go to StewMac for tools because they're there. Fret something. I have no idea what the tool is. I just know this. If you watch any of my videos, it's in the background on the tool. On the tool rack behind me. So here is a fret crimper. Now, nope, this is not the tool. I said fret crimper. That's not the tool. This is it. The StewMac fret tang nipper. So if you look at any of my videos, any deep dives, you'll see this tool right here hanging. There's a couple tools on a side note, just funny. I've had some interesting responses over the years about my tools behind me. And I always love it because people are always curious, like, hey, what tool is that? What tool is this? But I've had some people like try to call me to the mat, like, why do you have garden shears on there? And I'm like, they're not, they're 10 snips. And they'll go, why do you have, and they always think they're other tools. And I'm like, no, and I'm like, no, I have a fret, it's a fret tang nipper. So here you can see, this is how I show it in the video too. Basically what this tool does is it takes off, see right there, if you're looking at the fret, you see you're taking off about 1/4 inch of the blade from the end of the fret. And then what you do next is you will I use a Dremel wheel, but they could be using all kinds of things. My guess is probably some kind of wheel on a Dremel, just because it's pretty easy. And they just round over the edge. Like I said, they make them ball-ended, and then they set them in. There is some, hold on a second, refresh this. Okay, there is some other ways to do it, but I'm pretty sure that's the way they're doing it, as it's pretty easy to do it that way. And the other thing that's important is some people have said like it's not a good idea because the string can roll off the edge. It is possible. You have to do it well. They do it pretty well. But I mean, you're obviously inviting problems sometimes when you're doing it, but that's how they do it, Gary. And like I said, I will make sure if you go on Instagram, I promise you, if you scroll through, you'll find the short video of it. And then otherwise I'll put it on YouTube as a short. And then also if you go into any of the eArt videos, you'll see I think it's in the tech tip sections. It'll show. And like I said, I would pull it up, but I just haven't figured out how to pull up pull up internet and show you guys a view of a video without it possibly causing issues. So I'll preload it for next time. Okay, so that's the answer to that question. The other thing I need to do while we're talking about this stuff is pull up the patron page, because the patrons submitted questions as well. So I want to be able to pull up their questions. Like I said, we'll try to get to everybody or as many as possible. Okay, I'm going to answer this question. I'm just going for it like I always do. Let's see what happens. Richard says, hey, not a question. Then I don't know why I'm reading it. No, I'm just kidding, Richard. But greatly appreciate your measuring fret height on the deep dive. So many brands say something like medium jumbo frets. Some of those, like my Heritage, are quite short, whereas my G&L medium jumbos are taller than my Fender frets. So I love that was a suggestion to me by a patron member. I think it was on the coffees things. So if you don't know what the patron deal is, if for $5 a month you become a patron, I do one bonus podcast a month like this. It's just for patrons, and it's pretty much guaranteed you're getting your question in, because like last week's was like 25 people live. So if you come live, you're getting your question in. But if you submit it, I'm pretty much going to get to it too. And then the $25 tier, the highest tier, we about once, and we try to do twice a month, we have coffee. So we Zoom call hang. So, and in that we get a lot of feedback. So I'm just giving them credit for this. And that was one of the things they're like, hey, could you add fret height and fret measurements to the videos? And actually, there was a reason why I didn't want to do it. So let's talk about why I didn't want to add fret measurements to the videos. And then now I do want to do it. I didn't want to do it because it would be confusing, because they're never going to be the same measurements almost ever twice, because no frets are usually untouched. What I mean by that is if we take, I just keep life easy. Let's just say, I'm making up these numbers for reference. Okay. Let's say a fret is 2 millimeters wide and 1 millimeter tall. And that's the spec. Let's say that's a medium fret. That's just the spec. Okay. Every video I measure it, it's going to be like, this fret is 2 millimeters wide, but it's going to be 0.75 millimeters tall, right? And the next one's going to be, 50 millimeters tall, right? Well, what I mean by that is they're all going to start at the same place, but then when you level them, you're taking away material greatly, which is why I'm a big fan of jumbo tall frets, because if I don't want them, if a fret's too tall for me, I'll just take it down, right? But if it's too low, I can't bring it up. I have to refret. But I decided that would cause more questions than answers by giving you those numbers. But then, through that feedback, I thought about it going, I noticed something really strange, and it's funny that you mentioned your Heritage, and Heritage is actually who triggered this. When I said I have this beautiful heritage behind me. When I got the first Heritage, I said the frets were too low. And a lot of people said, well, aren't they medium frets? Why are they too low? Well, that's because I believe the Plek machine and the tech who used the Plek machine just grinded down the frets so low that the neck, so it would be perfectly level and play great, that I just didn't feel like there was enough fret left. And that's sometimes a trick that manufacturers will do, and we all do it. I mean, techs do it. We all do it. Like if you came to me and you said you don't have a specific, like you're not really into fret wire, like it's like not important to you, it's just you just don't want any buzz or you don't want any dead notes. I would level your frets until they were level, even if that meant, I'm taking a pretty good life, a good amount of life out of those frets, lowering them down. Most players would play the guitar next and they wouldn't even care. Some would go, oh man, now it's too low. I feel like my finger's just rubbing on the fretboard. And so that's why I started giving you those numbers, because, let's see if some companies, actually get you closer to an untouched fret wire than others. And, the funny thing about this is you're gonna kill me. You're gonna hate me. I don't care. I don't know what to tell you guys. Like the facts are the facts. The information I present in the videos is the information I present in the videos. The PRS guys nail it, man, everything that they kind of spec behind the scenes comes out in my videos almost every time. It's almost like creepily accurate, right? Like, for instance, when I'm doing the nut slots, you can almost guarantee that the PRS nut slots are going to be exactly what they're supposed to be. It's going to be like 20 thousandths on the E and the A. It's going to be 18 thousandths. I think I said this already, on the D and the G, and 16 thousandths on the B and the E. It's almost like locked in, to the point where you can tell they really did obsess about it. And when I say that, here's where it's different. There are brands that I can tell you that I thought were some of the best amazing guitars ever. To me, especially 80s era, 90s era American-made Jackson guitars are just phenomenal players. You pick them up and the necks, there's something almost magical about them. BC Rich in the right year, same thing, magical necks, okay? Ibanez, unless you don't like the thin necks, same thing, especially the Japanese era necks, especially late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, man, even more so, just fantastic fretwork, fit and finish work, and of course still to this day with the prestige stuff. However, where it gets really weird with the brands is there's almost like if I said, oh yeah, Ibanez does good work and Jackson does good work, and Music Man does great work. Music Man, will keep them aside for a second. Please give me that for a second. I can't say from top bottom it's like that, right? So if I was to tell you that I think that if you gave me 10 Prestige Ibanez guitars, Prestige the brand, not Prestige like in Prestige condition, Prestige the model. If you gave me 10, I would say, let's just say to be safe, 80%. 8 out of that 10, gonna be perfect. Gonna be perfect. Especially if I have to adjust a few things, it's gonna be perfect. I really feel confident about that. Premium brand, which is the Indonesian line of Ibanez's, you gave me 10, 7. 7 out of 10. Maybe 6, but 7 out of 10. I feel like, remember, I'm betting money here on this, all right? I'm saying, that's what I feel like. If you presented that to me as a challenge and I had to throw, $1,000 down and go, okay, here's what's going to happen. Then when we get to the subsect, in other words, a lower tier price of Ibanez, I would then say, oh, now it's going to be like 50%, right? Maybe 60%, being nice, which is pretty good. That's pretty good, right? PRS, though, I don't think that's the case. I would say USA core PRS guitars, well, if we're talking about fretwork being perfect, 9 out of 10, okay? And I feel pretty confident out of that. In fact, if you gave me 20, I would probably still not even say 9 out of 10 out of 20. I would say, instead of saying 18 out of 20, say 19 out of the 20. See what I'm saying? S2s, not even 8 out of 10. I think it's like 8.5 out of 10. I know the half doesn't make sense, but just give it to me because it's not that. Then when we get to SE, 7 out of 10. That's pretty good. You know what I mean? So like I said, they seem to really have that focused in. So why I'm talking about that right now is not to praise PRS guitars. Okay. That's not what this is about. What it's about is to say in the videos, I thought, well, why don't we start including all that information so that when we have discussions every Friday like this, or when we want to refer back to the information to see who's doing the most consistency, maybe that will translate to something. Because here's what I've learned doing 1,000 of these deep dives is, doesn't matter how cheap or expensive the guitar, there are some things that are so consistent, they transcend every single video to where it's like everyone has that part figured out. And then there are things that you can tell, like I almost like now I can predict it, like, like Johnny Carson, like put on my thing, what is fret sprout? What is, right? Like you just know what you're going to come across. And who has more problems with it. In high-end guitars, expensive guitars, if I was going to say who's got fret sprout issues, get this. I would say best. In other words, if you want to guarantee almost no fret sprout on a guitar. And again, I don't know how to bet money on this. I don't know how to, so just go with go with me on this. If I was going to say what high-end, again, we're talking expensive. In other words, expensive meaning we're not even thinking about anything $1,000. It's got to be above $1,000 in today's market. I would say no fret sprout ever. I mean, okay, let me take it back. There's no such thing as ever. Best, by far, Gibson. By far. The dealing with fret sprout on a Gibson guitar, unless, of course, like I said, we're talking about high-end Gibsons. Once you get to these unfinished, no binding on the side of the necks kind of deals, yeah, you'll find fret sprout issues. But on the bound ones and the nice ones, almost non-existent. Then after them, I would say for fret sprout, never seeing fret sprout ever. which gets tough because this is where it's kind of unfair to some companies and where Gibson probably gets some credit is, the amount of guitars made by Gibson versus the next brand I'm going to say is like, it's like literally 1,000,000 to 1,000 kind of range. Suhr guitars, I would say Suhr is next for like just never fret sprout. Coming across it's very rare. Then I would say PRS maybe, right? I mean, obviously I could pick other brands like Nags and much smaller brands, but again, I'm trying to stick to mainstream stuff, and Suhr's already kind of small in that mainstream conversation. Then I would say for fret sprout, like maybe made in Japan Gretsch. For sure. Never seen those. What I'm trying to do, so is I go reflect back on all the deep dives I've done and all the repairs I've done for 2 decades and try to remember like who hasn't come in for fret sprout. And everyone has, except for, like I said, very rarely are you dealing with any bound neck Gibsons with fret sprout. Even if it cracks, because they'll push through and crack the binding, but very rare. Gretsch is the same, very rare to never. Schecter, very little. Schecter has for some reason, just really good control over that. Obviously Framus, which is a small company, like same thing, just masterful at that. High-end brands that I think have the problem, I would say Music Man. Sadly enough, I've fret sprout. I've done fret sprout on a massive amount of Music Mans. I did one today. So anyways, then I would say Kiesel and Carvin, right? Same thing. You see those fret sprout from time to time for sure. Then you'd see Fender, of course, but by the volume, but much more USA and made in Mexico, but mostly because of the volume. So anyways, that's why I want to start including all that information in the sheets. And like I said, we'll go. And then a question that wasn't asked, but I want to tag on to since we're talking about the sheets. There was a question that came up on the Patreon side, which maybe you guys are interested in, which was they wanted to know why I was basically putting in, let me share with you on the sheets for those that are fans of the channel and like the sheets, the KYG Score Cards. Why I put stuff like not horrible, good, great. They said, could you put like a numbering system so it can help like a grade? And the way I've decided to do it, this is a lot of stuff. I've just recently made a change to the sheets. Please, guys, keep the suggestions coming. I'm not going to respond to you. I just don't have time. Okay, I'm not going to respond to your stuff, but I'm going to consider it and do it. For instance, this week, a suggestion came in, and it was kind of like, just for the record, the person sent it, come on, man, just a little highs and how you doings and pleasants. But it was kind of like, do this. But I was all right, fine. I got the point. I've been yelled at. I don't, you're not going to hurt my feelings. But anyways, on the Bromo video, is it Bromo? Yeah. We added this, based on a suggestion, which was they wanted the weight instead of just in pounds. Could we put it in other measurements? And so that's what I did. I added that as well. We added weight not only in pounds, we added it in ounces, just so you have that breakdown, and then we did it in kilograms. So I'm trying to show you on the sheet. Here, let me show you. Like, where is it at? It's on the second page. Maybe it's on the second page. Yeah, I know I added it. Yeah, guitar weight. See, so there it is. So it gives you the pounds, the ounces, and the kilograms. So again, keep suggestions coming. I'll keep adding them. The one thing I'm not going to change anytime soon, because again, I have a personal reason for it, is on the grading. I'm not going to cite numbers other than the sock test, and here's why. A grade on the sock test to me is a provable grade. In other words, if one sock tore, that's horrible. And if it doesn't tear at all, that's good. And if it's kind of scratched a little bit, that's not so good, right? So that's to 1 to a 5 makes sense that. The other grades, when I say not horrible, great, good, okay, those are my opinions, how I feel about the things that I'm looking at. And I don't want you to confuse those with facts. I understand in today's day and age when reviewers are like, I don't give opinions. I only review stuff I like. I'm like, no, we're starving for people to give you an opinion. Tell me it sucks or it's great so I can decide if I want to take my hard-earned money and put it out there for it. I know you need an opinion, or at least not so much because my opinion matters, but at least you feel like you can trust if I say something, you have a bearing, where to kind of, set your sights. So I tend to, I'd rather be those terminologies, just be like, this is not horrible. This is good. This is great. This is, whatever. But, cause again, it's opinion. So I'm just giving you that information. We don't have to get too much into it. Let me do this. Amanda sending me questions. Jay, she's sent one from Jay. It says, how do you make 400 episodes? I'm never going to get the concept of just drink, then read the whole question instead of pause in the middle. Sorry. How do you make wiring in a guitar neat and tidy, or is it a lost cause? Just did a 2-hum, 2-pot, push-pull, and toggle. Looks like Monica's closet. I got that from Friends. It's a Friends reference, huh? My fun fact. Here's a fun fact. Fun fact is my new office, the room you see me in here, is a trick. I'm just sharing with you guys. It's funny. I'm kind of picturing my wife going, he's not going to say what I think I'm not saying entirely what I'm saying. This room that looks like the room I've been in for years is not the room I've been in for years. It was decorated and made to look like the room I'd been in for years. I'm actually in a different room. This office that I now claim is my daughter's old bedroom. She moved away and decided, she's going to be successful and move away. She did that. So I took over her bedroom as my office because she has her own bathroom and a bigger closet for all my guitars. So I was like, okay, I'm taking that. So this room, which looks like the old room, is in fact my daughter's room. And to pay homage to my daughter, who had the room decorated like Friends. Okay. And another fun fact that you just can't not share. I'm sorry, guys. This wallpaper that my wife did was great. This is to cover up the very purple pink walls because I didn't want to paint over my daughter's walls. So we wallpapered over them because this can come down, right? I don't know why, but also my daughter had hand painted this Friends ceiling fan, and I just couldn't take that, right? Because I got to have a cool ceiling fan. And so what I did is I disassembled all the fan blades. What I'm basically trying to get to is my bathroom is Friends themed. So I have the Friends pictures in there. I have Friends Lego sets. I basically took all my daughter's Friends stuff that she had decorated for years and didn't want it. So when you said the Friends reference, I get Friends because my daughter watched it like crazy. And my bathroom is a Friends themed bathroom, which is almost kind of funny. Okay, I don't know why I went on the tirade. Let me get back to your problem. Your problem is wiring. Yeah, here's the thing with wiring. I like mini zip ties, little teeny ones. I get them. I don't know. I probably get them from Harbor Freight or whatever, Amazon, Ace Hardware. I do a lot of shopping at Ace Hardware because I can walk to one. So I just like to bundle it, put everything up neat and zip tie everything up and clean it up. I like everything to be really clean. I try to give myself. Because I've worked on so many guitars, I really don't like it when people cut things too short and you can't work on anything later. A lot of times you're like, well, no one's ever going to work on this. I'm sure everybody thought that every guitar I've ever had to fix, they thought I was going to have to work on it. It's really horrible if you can't, get in there. So I like it when everything's just zip tied up and nice and neat. And I would use little zip ties. Those are perfect. You can use, twist ties and all that stuff, but I like the little zip ties. That's just how I would do things. It's not going to hurt anything. As you know, I'm not an amp repair guy. I don't know anything about amps, but I took an amp class, a building class, and just for the knowledge of it. And what I learned in amp class was all of my knowledge in guitar repair was actually a hindrance and horrible to amp repair. The first thing being apparently an amp building, like, you don't want any wire longer than it absolutely needs to be. And in guitar repair, it's like, throw a little extra in there and just throw it in there so you have it, right? There's no, you don't have to worry about, if you leave an extra 2 inches of wire on a pickup wire and just, kind of tuck it out of the way, you don't have to worry about that creating any more noise or doing anything harmful. Not even like in a resistance kind of tone thing. It's not even a real big deal. So I learned the hard way that, Harry Sound says heat shrink. Sure, I heat shrink the ends, but I don't heat shrink things together. Here's why, Harry. I mean, you can do whatever you want. Like I said, whatever's me. I always like I said, I want to be able to, whatever I make nice and neat, I want to be able to tear it apart and get back into there pretty easy again. So the zip ties are really nice because I'm talking about these really tiny ones, right? Don't think like a big, like 1/4 inch wide zip tie. These are like, probably 2.5 millimeter wide, right? Zip ties, right? 1/8 inch. Zip ties width wise. They're white and they're really short. You can probably get other colors, but I used to get these ones that are like clear white. or transparent white. And the reason I like them is that I can clip them very easy with some wire cutters. The problem with heat shrink is when you heat shrink it on there, it's really hard to get something underneath there and cut it out. So you tend to want to use an X-Acto knife and slice down. And to me, that's like that's a potential problem to slice your hand open. That could always happen. But more so, anything that can, anytime you put a razor blade next to something you don't want to cut, you're taking a chance, right? Because this is not as accurate as, just snipping it and having it separate. So that's why I use that. But again, that works too. But I use a lot of heat shrink to make the wires look nice. But to bundle the wires or to cinch up things, I use the zip ties. So, DJB says, can you put a Fender Professional 2 neck on a standard 4-bolt body? Will the extra screw hole compromise the neck at all? No. In fact, Fender cheats themselves. So what they do to save time and money is you'll find that there's pretty much no 4-hole necks. They're 5. So Fender pretty much drills the 4-hole square pattern and then the extra one for the extra one that's over for the when they have a contour there. So you should be fine. Should be no problem at all. They should almost line up. In fact, in most cases, they're going to line up so you don't have to dowel and re-drill new holes. But if worst case scenario, that's how you're going to do that. You would just dowel in all those holes, like drill them out, dowel them in, glue them in with wood glue, just type on wood glue and dowels. And then re-drill your new holes if you want. But my guess is the holes will line up on your 4-bolt pattern and you'll be fine and you'll have no problems. The only time you worry about any of that stuff on guitars, a lot of guitars that are designed to have kind of more of a rounded neck heel, sometimes they kind of sand and round the corner of the neck itself. And so when you put it on a 4-bolt, it because instead of where the 4-bolts got a straight line, all of a sudden it curves in and rounds. It looks a little odd. It doesn't hurt anything. It just looks a little odd. I don't think you're going to have that problem, but you have to be aware that some guitars will do that. Because again, I don't know every scenario that you're looking at as well. And Vox Guitar Rock says Indonesian or Mexican Fender. I don't care. I prefer, quality wise, from what I've touched, I prefer the made Mexico Fenders because so far that's what's come out best. But the reason I say I don't care is I'm also very aware that Fender did that. Like we talked about last week, the Cortec who makes the Indonesian Fender also makes a $3,600 Strandberg. So I don't doubt they can make a really nice Fender. The spec on that Fender that's off that some people don't like, I think it's just Fender did that. They set the specs and the factory built it. So, but workmanship wise, I didn't really see anything hugely different in the made in Mexico and made in Indonesia guitar. So I don't really care that way. If we're talking about the current lineup of guitars, what would I pick? I would pick the Fender made in Mexico. Here's why. I'm trying to sell the 2 standards that I bought and no one's even interested. They're just kind of sitting out there in limbo. And I can tell you right now, I can sell a Mexican Strat in 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes. So it's people aren't excited about the new ones for sure. I have a thought on that too, by the way. I'm wondering if, amongst other things, maybe we'll see a better version of the Indonesian made Fenders in the near future. I don't think this is the case because I kind of know some of the secret stuff behind the scenes stuff I'm not supposed to know. So therefore I can't really all share it, but so I don't leave it kind of like jerky like that. What I'm trying to say is a lot of people are like, oh, the Indonesian Fenders are, made to, because of the tariffs. And that's a great theory. It could be possible. Although from the sources I have that are pretty accurate, this was decided way before there was even a thought process that stuff could even exist. So, in fact, this was a process or something they had been working on for a while, and then it got canned or shelved or postponed and then pulled back. I'm probably not even supposed to say what I just said. The reason I have to worry is because some of the people I talk to, it's in confidence, but also I could be vague and not say who it is. But when sometimes the information is so finite that somebody can figure out exactly who was telling me stuff. But anyways, I digress. So basically what I'm trying to say is one of the theories I have that's interesting is I wonder if they did this to see how we reacted to a made Indonesian Fender. I don't know about you guys. Everybody's got a different opinion, of course. Me personally, I think that's the last thing I cared about in the negatives of the guitar. I didn't consider that a negative at all. I like Indonesian made guitars. So, you know, I mean, that's just the evolution of things. But anyways, so either way, I don't care. But right now, where it's made, I don't care. In those two instances, Mexico or Indonesia, I don't have a preference, is what I want to say. Maybe that's better than saying I don't care. I do care, I just don't have a preference. But of the two models that exist, I prefer the made Mexican model right now because I like the quality of it better and the feature set better. Okay. Oh, I'm going to answer Wanna Beetle's question just because I haven't answered a Wanna Beetle question in a long time. So he said, since the new He-Man movie is being shot, I didn't know there was a new He-Man movie. I didn't know they had the guts to do a second one. I grew up with He-Man, so when the He-Man movie came out, it was like, oh, that's pretty bad. Okay, so anyway, so new He-Man movie says, what guitar would look great with She-Ra outfit? My guitar of the week. How about that? I'm going to leave you hanging. Everybody, I think you'll have to tell me. I don't know if this is the She-Ra color, but I definitely think if this guitar was like She-Ra colored, whatever that means, right? I don't know what color She-Ra's outfit is. Is it red? Red and gold? Why do I think it's red and gold? Like red and gold and white, right? It's like a red and gold. I don't know. Anyways, this guitar in She-Ra colors, this is the guitar. You have to tell me later. What you think? Shane says, I don't care where Fenders are made as long as they're lefty. That's nice, right? Like I said, caring about where stuff made, I do care and don't care. Does that make sense? I care, obviously, look, pride, country pride is a thing, right? The country you live in, you have pride. I do care because, again, as you get older, you think about the economics of things more, which is, but my biggest problem, which is why sometimes I just want to be clear, what the bias is. I've made so many friends around the world that sometimes I'm like, when you see the face, when you shake the hand, when you become the friend of somebody and you hear somebody go, I wouldn't buy a guitar from that country. And I'm like, man, my dear friend lives in that country, makes guitars, and he's amazing. And he loves guitar as much as anybody I've met. And he's just trying to build guitars too. It does, people do change, like I said, people will change your opinion about something. It's so easy to think a thing when the only thing you have to think about is some letters on a headstock, or some politician's viewpoint of something, or whatever, right? It's a lot harder when it's the person. And I'm just saying, and I'm not trying to convince anybody because I think that you should think like that. I'm just telling you where my bias is stuck. What do I do with these friends that I have that I care about? And I care about them too. That's all. I just want you to know where sometimes the bias comes from. Yeah, Fast Freddy says, QA is more important than country of origin. I use this analogy. I used it. I did a Ask Me Anything on Reddit years ago on Thanksgiving, which is kind of a funny day. I think I did it. But what's funny is one of the questions I love, and I've talked about a long time ago, but I haven't brought it up a long time, was the best question I ever got. They said, do you think they can make a great guitar in China? Like a guitar that can blow away USA guitars? And I know everyone was probably waiting for me to go, of course, an Eastman, of course, Shiji, of course. And I said this, and I'll regurgitate it the best of I can remember my own quote. If I took John Suhr and I locked him in a Chinese factory and told him he couldn't come out until I had a perfect guitar come out, I know he would come out with a perfect guitar. So it's not the factory. Right? It's not that. I mean, I think I could, right? Think about this. Paul Reed Smith once made a joke about, and I thought it was cool. He said no, he wanted to do it. Paul Reed Smith himself said this. Some of you guys may have seen this. He said he always thought it'd be cool to take somebody like John Suhr, him, and like a couple other, maybe like Nick Huber, right? Nick Huber, just a bunch of builders, and essentially not lock them in a Home Depot, but send them to Home Depot and make them make a guitar only using the things they got at the Home Depot. Like everything. He's like, from the pickups, everything. They would have to do everything from Home Depot. And he was like, I'd love to do that. And I was like, oh man, see that's the argument, right? The argument is, you know, as someone who's like, look, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I banked on my technical skills to fix guitars. My customer service, my personality was 50% of what I sold, right? The fact that I wasn't kind of harsh or jerky or judgmental, right? The fact that I was like, hey man, what do you got, a Squire? I love it. Let's put it on the bench. Let's take a look at it, right? That was part of my skill set. But obviously the skill is also in the repairing and the doing. And you know how many times somebody brought something to me and said, you know, this can't be fixed. And I almost wanted to say, like, after I was looking at it going, your guitar tech sucks. It's not, this is fine. This happens, right? I mean, you know, we all sucked at some point and yours sucks now because here it is fixed. It could be fixed. So it was, somebody was blaming the guitar when it was really the workmanship of the tech. So Sean says he would love to see Nick on the show. You know, that would be really exciting. I'd be exciting. So you guys know, it is confirmed. I'll be meeting with Gabe, the CEO of Guitar Center, very soon. When I say very soon, I don't want to tell you exactly when, just to say within 10 days guaranteed. Within 10 days, I'll be with him. If you guys don't know, I did a podcast like you're watching right now, and I said this thing that now looks back going, maybe it was a kind of jerky move. I titled the video, Why Guitar Center's New Plan is Going to Fail. I don't know why, but that got on Guitar Center's radar. Guitar Center reached out and said, which is what we're doing. We're going to do a actual, he's not dialing in like a phone in podcast. I'm literally going to him. We're going to sit down and we're going to discuss for an hour what I said that day, which I still 100%, everything I've now experienced with Guitar Center hasn't changed any way I feel about any of that stuff. If you guys have any suggestions or questions and comments, you could put that in the permanent comments of this video. I will be glad to read them on the way to California. And maybe I'll see something you guys thought of. I'm like, oh, that's even better than mine, or something I can add in if I have some time. But I want to have this discussion with him, and he wants to have it with us. And when I say us, I mean he wants you to hear his ideas and the future of Guitar Center. And so we're going to be doing that. You should be seeing the video. I can tell you this, you'll see the video within 2 weeks. There, because I don't plan to edit really anything. So it should be a pretty easy thing to post up. I love that half of you are still talking about She-Ra. Just to point out how sometimes you guys get carried away in the wrong way in the comment sections. I have to admit, I don't know what would be interesting about She-Ra, but the fact that I've seen the name She-Ra come up 12 times now on the screen just kind of makes me chuckle. And I want to thank you for when you guys are being fun, because it's nice to have fun. Look at me drinking water and then reading a question. Dan, this came from Amanda, said, Dan says, hey, got news. First bass ever Yamaha BB 735. Really excited. What should the neck relief on the string height be? Well, the neck relief, so you're saying 10,000ths of an inch? I have a cheat card right here. I should know, but I'm going to cheat. I'm going to tell you, because sometimes bass, guitar is easy. I have it to memory, but bass gets a little tricky. I'm going to say on the E, you want 20,000ths. So you said 10,000ths? No, man. No, 20,000ths would be ideal. So if you get it to 10,000ths, yeah, it would be really, really good. On the low E and the A. On the D and the G, you would want it at 18,000ths. So a little higher. You gotta understand, those bigger strings, right? They oscillate much more. By the way, somebody called me out a couple of weeks ago because I said spinning and they go, it's oscillating. And then I won't say who because I don't want to embarrass them. But when I read your comment, hopefully you're still watching the show. Look, and I don't have any problem with it, but you're like, just to, it's always the same quip. It's always like, Phil, just so it's not spinning, it's oscillating. And so what I did was I asked someone who actually watches the show, but I knew they weren't super into guitar. I said, do you know what oscillating means? And they go, no. And I'm like, right. That's why I said spinning. Because I was trying to illustrate, but sometimes when I'm illustrating with hand gestures and verbiage, just words, it's just a lot faster to picture something, even if that something's a little less accurate. But anyways, yes, oscillating. So anyways, the bass string, oscillating. Sometimes a little bit more is important because the longer scale, which means the string is going to be oscillating more in the center. So that's probably why it's a little higher. Again, by the way, please don't ever take any of that as don't criticize me. Please criticize. Keep the criticisms going. Even if you're jerky about it. Most of the time, reading stuff is not right anyways. You're probably not meaning to be jerky. I'm not saying you were, but jerky, reads across jerky. I have a theory doing this for as long as I've done it that most people think there are trolls in the comments, they just think they're funny. I see what some people now see. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some of it's just jerky stuff, but some stuff when I read, somebody will say, "Oh, that was jerky to say." And I'm like, no, that was a failed joke. They thought they were funny, right? It's like a failed attempt at being funny helps. So, but anyways, okay. Hold on. Let me grab, what time is it? Oh, we're doing good. Oh, we started a little late, so we're not on the same timeline as we normally are. Let me go to a screen that will help me get to supers. Supers are right here. So Litve was the first super chat today. He said, "Hey, have you heard of Planet Tone pickups?" I have heard of Planet Tone pickups. They say hand-built in the U.S., but they are less than half of DiMarzio and Seymour Duncan. Is that for real? Planet Tone pickups. There's another company that also is that. Let me see if it's the same. I'm going to put in Planet Tone pickups right now and see if this is the same company. This is a different company. There's another. So you guys know, there's a couple of these. I don't know the story of Planet Tone. So let me look. I'm looking right now. I'm sharing the screen, and I went right to like the DiMarzio style pickup right here, and $69. $69 is so. Hold on. Let me go back. 69, $70. Okay, that sounds about right. That could be doable in the U.S. That's a doable price in the U.S. Obviously, I would have to see how they're doing it. There's another company. Let me go to me, and there's another company that is like this, and I did some research on them, and I have a theory on how they're doing it, and I just want to make sure before I share it with you guys. Yeah, this is the guy. Okay, so there's a company called Bootstrap Pickups, and if you look, the same kind of thing. Especially some pickups are a little bit more expensive, but check this out. So you come here and here's a set of, this is a set, right? So let's do Sun City Select for Series for Strat. This is a set of pickups for $60. He's claiming these are made in the US. Now, when I say he's claiming, it's like I can't prove or disprove anything. However, let me tell you what I figured out. What I figured out from what I could do some research, he's making them, I think, out of his house, like, kind of like how I do, right? And if you think about it, then that would make sense, right? So if you took out, I mean, look, I told you guys how anything you guys want to know about pickups and how they cost, I can help you understand that for the most part, especially on the small builder network. So obviously, look, if as soon as somebody wants to do pickups for real and they rent a building, that is in the price of all the pickups, that rent every month. Right, an employee is in the price of the pickups every month. The insurance is in the trademark. Right, you got to pay lawyers, right, to get your trademarks and stuff. All that stuff is going to be in the price of the pickups. When somebody is just like, I'll do it on my kitchen table, right? It's no different than Etsy, right? You're like, okay, my costs are my time and then the materials. I mean, that's still pretty low, $59 for a set of single coils. But if I thought when I looked. Like some things made more sense, like a humbucker, right? Where's this humbucker at? Let me go to this. And I feel bad. Hold on, I'll tell you why I feel bad. I feel bad because of why I can't just like, oh yeah, it's totally probably right. Okay, here you go. So here's a set of skookumbuckers. Oh, I like that name. That's funny as hell. So this is $139, was $200, $139 for the set. These are aged nickels, and you can pick. Right? Look, polished nickel. So pearl chrome. That's funny. The polished chrome, polished nickel, raw nickel. So raw nickel. I mean, a set. It says sold out, so I can't order them. Can't order them. Probably because he's probably not at home right now to make them. I'm assuming. So my point is, look, $139 for 2 humbuckers. And if you're saying, are they made in the USA? Can that be possible? Absolutely. I can tell you for a fact that the materials that are there are less than $139. So if I was going to guess, depending on how much he's buying, $80 into $40 each into a pickup. So $40 each. And that's I'm being very generous. $40 is what each one of those cost in materials and then his time. So if I'm doing the math and you're doing the math with me, what did I say? $140? Is that what he's saying this is? $140. So he's like $60. So let me put it to you in a way that makes sense. You can't do it in exactly an hour because technically you have to put it in the wax pot, and depending on how long you want it to wax pot. You're not standing over the wax pot watching it, by the way. I'll wax pot for 24 hours. I'll let him sit for a while, just because. Anyways, my point is, if you were sitting at your table and you're like, okay, this week I want to make 10 pickups, that's $600. That's net to you, right? You'll pay taxes on that and stuff, but you get the idea. You got to ship these out. I'm sure he's charging shipping on top of that. It can be done for sure. So I believe it. The problem though is where I have to always hold back a little bit is I want to tell you what I'm answering. I'm answering the question, can that price be real? It absolutely can be real. Yes, taking parts, assembling them, winding them, shipping them at that price, it could physically be done. I could do it right now. I told you guys, I could tell you, absolutely I could sell a set of my pickups for that. But I told you I'm not going to do it because unfortunately it's my time, it's away from another job, right? If I didn't have this job and if I didn't have any other jobs, then yeah, I'd probably do the same thing as him. I'd probably go, hey, why don't I just wind pickups all day and pay myself $60 an hour, right? That's not a bad wage, man. $60 an hour. If you especially if you get the orders. Now, the trick is to get the orders, and what he's probably doing and what a lot of them are doing is like, obviously with those price points, a lot of you are willing to take a shot at it, right? That's an impulse buying price point. At that point, I could argue maybe it's a better quality pickup than some of the mass produced ones, depending on how they're doing it. But material wise, it's pretty good. So it can be done. The only thing I always caution about is we've all seen this in this industry where some pickup companies too, but some pedal guys like, oh, I made this pedal in the US. And you're like, oh, it was China repackaged, right? So I'm just saying you have to be weary. But the answer to the important questions is, can those prices be real and them actually be doing them in the US? Can. So, and I would almost argue great business strategy because at this point, you're who they're going after. They want to, remember, the trick is if you want to sit and wind pickups all day and you need orders, and that's a great way to guarantee orders every week. If you're going to be able to pay yourself somewhere between $40 to $60 an hour and you want to work a 40-hour week, those prices will keep you busy, right? We're talking about them. A lot of you are probably like, what? I'm sure a lot of you right now are like, if that's real, I'd order it, right? And so you don't know if it's real, but the real is when you get them and they sound great, right? So I don't know. But back to the original one, the Planet Tone pickups you mentioned. I'd heard of them passively in the past, but again, their prices like Bootstrap look really good. Seems to be legit. I don't know why they don't do this. Bootstrap does. Okay, so let me tell you why I'm kind of mentioning Bootstrap over Planet Tone. And so, it's not because Planet Tone's not doing this. I just haven't done the research. In Bootstrap pickups, what I did is, hold on a second, contact us. Oh, okay. I know what I did. Going back, I went on Bootstrap. I went to just a thing I've learned to do. Okay. And again, not because I'm any kind of expert. I'm just like you guys. I'm just into this, so I know what to look for. What I did on Bootstrap is I went to his social media accounts and I looked for pictures of him making the pickups. I looked for the environments and I saw physical pictures of him. He might not be doing it that way anymore, but he was at some point. He was at his kitchen table. He was in his house doing it. And I can tell you exactly like, yeah, then that makes sense, right? And he's doing it, right? You can see at least that. We've all seen companies quite a bit there was a company, a guitar company that was called Taller Than Midgets. There's a lot of controversial stuff about them. I'm not here to talk about any of that right now because as far as I know, they're not even in business anymore. But I remember one of the things that I remember that was weird about them, because I used to reach out to YouTubers and stuff, was they were like, hey, we build these guitars in the US. And then they would have pictures of their facility, but their pictures were like tabletops with boxes. Like I saw unboxing facilities. I saw packing. I saw setup counters, but I didn't see like saws. I didn't see CNC machines. I didn't see templates. I didn't see jigs, right? You know, it's like, again, I know exactly what, you're looking for. You're looking for the something to show how it's built or how they're doing it. So in that case, I remember thinking like, oh, this doesn't seem right, and I'll stay away from it. So in this case, Bootstrap, I remember seeing pictures of him on his Facebook of like, oh, when I was researching one night, trying to get the idea of it. Because so I think about buying some of those pickups and sharing with you guys. And before I do that, I try to be as informed as possible, because I don't need to be, I don't need to put myself at risk. So you guys, buy 1,000 pickups from these people and then find out like, oh, they were just repackaging. So anyone has information, reach out. And by the way, if Planet Tone pickups or Bootstrap pickups ever see this and they want to reach out. I mean, it's pretty cool. I'm very upfront about how I work with companies. If I want to make the videos, I'm pretty easy to deal with. If I don't want to make the videos, you got to figure out how to make me to want to make the videos, right? I don't think it's really hard, right? But more importantly, if you guys are bringing it up on the show, my guess is you probably want to see it. So I always go to that as the go-to. So if you guys are mentioning it, it's worth doing. All right, there's 1,300 of you live right now. Let's do Guitar of the Week.
Now it's time for Guitar of the Week.
Okay. So today's Guitar of the Week is what we call a deep cut, right? I want to be like a DJ, right, on the radio station. Let me get my microphone up and be like, all right, everybody, tonight we're doing a deep cut, right? This is the second half of the album people don't know about. So I'm going to show you a guitar that's really crazy. It could be Shira's guitar. And it has a story that you guys have heard before, but unfortunately, I'm going to retell it just because I like it. It's one of my favorite stories. And this show today is, I guess, about me. All right, what is today's guitar? Of course, it's a goofy guitar. All right, ready? This is a Music Man. What? No, it's a Kiesel. Of course, it's a Kiesel. No, it's a Music Man. It's a Music Man. Dun, 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 dun. Kaizen. In Kryptonite green. Oh, look at that Kryptonite. It's to some of you, it's probably the ugliest thing you ever seen, which is why we need to share it. This is why I said I'm trying to pull stuff that's a little bit more different than what you normally see on the walls. Okay, this is a 7-string. First of all, let's talk about that. This guitar has a roasted flame maple neck that looks gorgeous. It's Music Man makes this satin and the headstock gloss. It does have these crazy tuning keys. If you haven't seen them before, they turn here. They look like little volume knobs almost, and they lock up here. It's kind of like the banjo tuners you've seen on a Firebird, but these seem different than that. I don't really know if they're that much different, but they seem a little bit different. Very sleek and clean looking, right? This comes in a ton of different colors. This is the color that I wanted because the problem I have with this thing is it comes in silver, and when it's silver, it looks like the Cybertruck, and I'm like, that just looks too weird. It looks like you know what it is? I'm not making this up. This guitar, I think looks like a PV logo came to life as a guitar. Like if PV ever wanted to make a guitar that was like the pointy PV logo comes to life as a guitar, this is the guitar, right? This is so silly. So, all right, so we got ebony fretboard, stainless steel, 24 stainless steel frets. These are those Ernie Ball pickups that are cryogenically frozen, which is funny. It's a fan fret guitar, I should say, right? Multi-scale. I should say multi-scale. Actually, they're not fanned. I don't think they're fanned. I just think it's multi-scale. Multi-scale with a multi-scale bridge, which is a vibrato. It's got a volume tone, and then it's got a 3-way switch. The switch is a humbucker, 2 single coils, and then a humbucker neck. And that's pretty much. It looks like it might have batteries and stuff. It does not. If you want to see detailed ways this looks in this, I have a detailed deep dive of a Kaizen guitar. This guitar was a funny instrument. In 2022, I was invited to go to Sweetwater, so I went, and I was there for 8 beautiful days in which they let me run amok. A lot of you guys know the story. I'll keep this story quick. One of the things they let me do was whatever I wanted. I had this cool lanyard that said, or pass that said I could go anywhere in the building pretty much, and so I went in and got into some of your guys' accounts and see what you bought. No, I'm just kidding. No, so I ran around, and one night I decided, since there was a Kaizen like this in white pearl, I want to check it out. So I did a deep dive video. That's the video that's on the channel right now. The next morning, however, I'd like to point out, so however the story feels or senses, everyone was so cool, okay, about this. But the next morning, somebody stopped me at Sweetwater and said, hey, we got a call last night at like midnight. I go, okay, from security saying there's a guy on the floor, like physically on the floor, taking guitars apart and filming them. I go, yeah, it was me. And they go, we know it was you. And I was taking apart, one of the guitars I took apart and did a deep dive was the Kaizen, because it just came out, 2022. And I said, is there a problem? And the Sweetwater guys go, no, I just wanted you to, like, I didn't know you're going to be doing that. And I told security that, yeah, he's allowed to do that. So I hope you had fun. I said, I did. So that's what happened. Now, what didn't go well, though, was when I bumped into the Music Man reps that were there, the representative of the company. They were like, oh, you took it apart and looked at it and did a video? And I go, yeah. And they go, well, that's like the prototype. That's Tosin's like guitar. And, we don't want people to see that. And I go, oh, well, easy enough. When the production one comes in, if you want to send one out, I'll film that as a deep dive. Or if you just want to film some of the internals of the finished ones, send them to me, and I'll put that in the video. And and no one has to. Maybe I'll compare the original prototype version to the way they produced. And they didn't say yes or no. I don't remember how the conversation went. I thought it went very positive, but long story short, never got them to ever email me back again. Like, I reached out to them, and over the years, just kidding, not over the years, over time, I thought to myself, I wonder what it is. Like, they never responded to my emails. I mean, so what happened was I put the video out, because I even sent them the video saying, hey, the video came out great. If you want to have me take anything out, if you want me to add something to it, let me know. 0, no response. And I'm like, okay. So I put the video out. And, it got a lot of views. So good, right? I think it did. I think it's like 90,000 views, something like that. It's pretty good. So I really wanted one. And then I was thinking, I'm like, man, I was hoping, maybe I talked to them about, when the production ones come out, maybe I'll get one of the production ones. I really liked it. This is one of my favorite 7-string necks. I really like this neck. And the guitar's crazy, but, hey, crazy guitars are fun. And then I realized, like, maybe I did say something to them. Because now I think I remember saying, it's a weird guitar. I know I told him that. And because they asked me what I thought, I said, oh, it plays amazing. I love it. I want one. I go, it's ugly though. Right? I go, it looks like this to me. I think this looks like if they made a jazz guitar and somebody said, hey, let's make a jazz guitar in the future, like an offset in the future. This is what it's going to look at. Like when you go to car shows and they make a car from the future so ugly. Like, I'm like, that's what it is. I said stuff like that to them. So then I was like, well, maybe that's the stuff that put them off. But I think the thing that really set it off, which again, I don't think they're mad at me. I'm just saying maybe that's why they didn't respond to emails or calls, is I said, oh, are you going to make a lot of these? And they go, oh, not at first, a little, and then we'll make a lot. And I'm like, oh, I can't imagine they're going to sell well. Right. And I go, which is good, right? I don't know. Not a lot of people want it, but that's okay. It's a small group of people that want a Kaizen. So what's funny is when they came out, they didn't sell through very well. And so I waited. I bid my time. I waited, and I was able to get one. I bought this thing for, probably below dealer cost. I'm not kidding. For a while, they were just trying to give away these things. They're still not holding value very well. This is not so it's a great guitar. So anyone that thinks this is cool looking, this is a guitar for you. Like if you want, like I always wanted like a crazy BC Rich guitar. This is crazy. It's BC Richie. The color is great. It looks neon green, but if you can't tell, there's pearl in this. So it's a pearl neon green. They call it kryptonite, matching headstock. I'm not a huge fan of the neck pickup clean sound, but it's because it's really tight and sterile kind of sounding, but it's still cool. But anyways, the cool part is, I was able to get one, and I thought, I don't know, I thought we should share it. So like I said, we pulled it from, I don't have a vault. That wouldn't be a cool thing to say. I pulled it from the vault. We just pulled it from a deeper selection of guitars to show you guys. We're going to start, somebody made a comment. They said, if you're going to do a guitar of the week every week, you're going to run out of guitars. I'm like, I think I could, but I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. So we'll see. Anyways, let's check it out. Let's see how it sounds. So first of all, I'm going to be running through the Ingle Steve Morris amp. I'll run a drum track on the bridge pickup on the distortion. We'll go over that, and we'll listen to it. And then if you guys have questions, Amanda, this is an idea I just recently had. I thought I was do it. If you have questions specifically about the guitar when I'm playing it, ask the question, and if Amanda, you can grab one or two, and I'll answer those right after the playthrough. All right, let's do.
Now it's time for Guitar of the Week.
All right, so what we're going to do is run the bridge pickup into the Steve Morris Ingle amp, and we'll run that with drum track. We'll switch to the neck pickup to give you some cleans, and the middle position is 2 single coils, so we'll just kind of show you that. So let's start with the drum track. Now we'll go to clean on the neck pickup. Here we go. Okay, now the middle.
Now it's time for Guitar of the Week.
I need when I'm switching, I need a way to say, and that's Guitar of the Week, so I can switch stuff. So, okay, so if you have, let me go here. We got out of this. And let's do this. Okay, so this is great. Ludomatic says, "Hey Phil, does it have the same asymmetrical neck like Tosin's own guitars?" So I've played the Tosin guitars that were, because he's had so many different makers of them. I've played the Acacia version, USA made one. I've played the, I think I played one of the Grover Jackson built ones that were USA made, and then I played the made in Korea by World Manufacturing. This neck feels different than that. This thing has like if you watch the deep dive, the neck is crazy. This has some kind of weird fretboard where like it's supposed to be turned a certain way. To me, it's just the carve I like. It probably asymmetrical, but I mean it's not necessarily what's drawing me to the guitar. I just when it comes to 7-string necks, I just like them really thin but not super thin, and this one's thicker than the John Petrucci version, just a smidge thicker. It feels really nice, but it's really comfortable. But it's probably asymmetrical. But again, it's hard to tell when it's 7-string. I mean, really everything just gets flat, and everything's kind of wide, and you're kind of jumbling around. And then I go through periods where I play 7 strings for just all the time, like every day, just because I love them. And something I should have told you guys, this is tuned differently, which is why I have it over like another 7-string I have. This one, the low string is A. So normally this is going to be B. So it's going to be B, E, A, D, G, B, E. So standard. So like a 6-string guitar, it's a standard. And then you have a low B. And this one I have it tuned to A. That's how I was able to get those. that's how I was doing that, because it's essentially drop D in the same kind of concept. If you're familiar with drop D, it's just I took the I think that's the way Tosin tunes his as well. Maybe, but Gary wants to know, is that a blues guitar? This guitar definitely has a one-trick sound, but if you're playing 7-string, I think that's the main sound, right, that you're going for. And then Greeny Meanie says, did someone remove the gloss on the back of the neck? Nope, that's how Music Man does it. So Music Man, I don't remember if they tape it off and they shoot the clear and then they leave it off on the neck, or if they shoot the whole neck clear, tape it off, and then sand the clear off to make it satin. I don't remember specifically, but no, it's done like that on purpose. So that's because they want it to be a natural neck, but a natural feel, but then they want the neck to be shiny. So I don't really have an opinion about that. I don't know about you guys. Like, to me, it's like, I remember the first time I ever saw it with Music Man, I thought, that was weird. But over the time, I'm just like, it's whatever. And then gloss. Weight-wise, so you guys know, this is 6 pounds, 7 ounces. It is, as far as it's not chambered, but you can understand, like, all that's missing, right? If you watch the deep dive, you'll see I pulled the plate off, and this is an aluminum plate. It's not plastic, and they have to bend it to the shape of the guitar. I mean, this has a lot of carves. This is a very, I remember, I think one of the reasons I fell in love with it, right, was when I reviewed it, when I did the deep dive, I remember saying this, and I probably said it in that video, and if I didn't, I really feel bad, because I should have. I definitely said it later. This guitar feels $6,000 to me. Like what I've seen in factories, what I've learned about guitars over the years, $6,000. Made in USA. Look, this is a lot of carves. This is a lot of work. Even a CNC, we're like, oh, a CNC machine does. This is a lot of time. Look at all these carves. Look at all this stuff. And so this, I gotta tell you, like I when they started dropping in price, the first thing I thought, this is about a year ago, I thought, if what happens with guitars like this is they make them and they find out they just don't do so well, and then maybe they stop. When they stop, they go up crazy in value. And again, I'm not looking at it as an investment. I'm just looking at it as like, I get to play it and enjoy it. And one day if I sell it, I'll get my money back. And it was my time, with the guitar. It was cool. This is also to point out, I love that they put on the back plate, it says, in collaboration with Tosin Abasi. This is not a signature guitar. This is essentially kind of like my Kiesel Phil McKnight. It's like, it's not my signature. He's not claiming, like, his name's not on this. He's not like, this is my guitar. He's just like, I worked with Music Man and they made this guitar. And maybe that's where I changed a little bit of my insights when I started working with Kiesel on the PM Delos. Like, yeah, I guess it's not a signature guitar. It's just, yeah, this is how I would want the guitar, So pretty cool. So John says, what? I would not pay 5,000 rupees. Is that supposed to be rubles or rupees? Or is rupee, is that a currency too? Probably. Yeah, well, here's the cool thing. That's what I think these, should cost. Not cost, but, understand. Like, I could see these being $6,000 with this much work and this, stainless steel frets, this much stuff. However, if you're looking up online, because sometimes you guys do that, these sell, this one in particular, but some of them sell for about $3,600 to $3,900 new. So $4,000, right? Okay, $4,000. Keep this in mind that this is what makes me laugh. And everybody's going to have a different opinion, and it's not to say anything negative. This guitar currently, in fact, you know what? Let's play a game. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Let's play a game. I need theme music for all the stuff I want to do. Theme music. Da-da-da-da-da. Let's play. I have $5,000. Let's go shopping. Now, I know what you're going to say. This guitar is ugly or weird. It is. I'm not trying to justify anything. I'm trying to point out something that I find humorous. And maybe the way I look at things is slightly different the way than some of you look at them. Okay. So what I want to do is go to Sweetwater. I'm going to Solid Body Guitars, and I'm doing a price range of $3,600 to $4,600. Da-da-da-da-da. That's our theme music. Maybe not. Does it not? Come on. Do I have to push the actual button? I can't just hit enter? I did. All right. Now, here we go. Here is Sweetwater. So, okay. So here is essentially a Steve I gem. This is the Pia. This is $3,700. And this is made in Japan. It's right. It's nice. You have here this gorgeous Les Paul. Here, look at this guitar. This Gibson Custom 1950. This is basically a flat hunk of mahogany with one P90, a wraparound bridge, and it's $4,000. By the way, I love all these guitars. I'm not making fun of any guitar. In fact, a lot of these guitars I own. But I want to show you what I see and maybe see how you guys react to that. Here's the Tosin guitar. That's the one in the metal finish, which a lot of you probably maybe like better or worse. I don't know. See, look, it looks like rusted metal and stuff, right? To me, this looks like the Cybertruck. It's just too weird to me. Okay, so $3,800. Okay. We have a PRS for $44. The thing that makes me laugh, like, look, here's a Phil Collin, which I love Phil Collin, but essentially this is just a dinky, right? Like it's a DK24, right? Here's a Majesty, a little different, like it's $4,000. These are a lot of money. Then I look at the Friedman. Here's a beat up Strat. Here is a Fender Custom Shop for $4,200. I'd like to point out that I think that's where my appeal to certain guitars come from is like, look, I love Strats. As you know, I'm a Strat fan. I have a Custom Shop Strat. It's all right. $4,200 for a Strat. I know a lot of you are like, but I way own that more than the Bossy guitar. And I don't disagree. I'm not a huge fan of what, if you weren't playing what I was playing, Chugga 7-string stuff, I don't know why you'd want the Bossy guitar. But my point is that think about a Strat for $4,000 is just an alder body, right? Simply cut, pretty easy to make. A one-piece slab neck, so it's a 2-inch by 2-inch neck, right? Maybe a 1-inch by 2-inch neck, so probably 2 inches wide, 1 inch deep, cut. And then you see this Tosin guitar, and you go, man, that's a lot of work and materials and time to have to come out at the same price. I almost find it laughable, so you know. I just don't understand it, and I love them. So because I'm addicted to this, I have to do it. But there's something about guitars like this, kind of like when I talk about the Parkers, all this stuff. Look, those aren't the guitars I play. I don't play the Parker. I play my Delos. I don't play, this so much, right? I play when I'm playing 7-string stuff. But to me, this stuff, I think, is just being an aficionado of guitars, someone who loves guitar, someone who loves factories, who loves the builders, who's worked on this stuff. When I look at this stuff, when I work on this stuff, there's just a beauty to this that even though if you go, this is ugly, the beauty I see is not in the, I get, like me personally, just on a personal note, this ES339 behind me, that's more my speed. That I've played that ES339 1,000 times more than I play this. And if I had to get rid of one of these, it's definitely this one. But that's because of my style. I'd rather just play pentatonic blues licks on an ES339 through my 65 Deluxe. And I plunk on it and I just enjoy myself. And I don't do a whole lot of the chugga stuff on this. But it doesn't mean I don't appreciate this craziness. Like to me, this is this pearl green. When I saw it, reminded me of where I live in Arizona. There is a I told you guys I don't know anything about sports, like nothing. Okay, like literally nothing. So anyone that can help me with this, where I live, around me is a training facility for baseball players. Apparently they come here and they train here like the professional baseball players, right? I don't know, like I couldn't tell you when baseball, is it a season? Seriously, I don't know. I'm not exaggerating. Like I know football's over because of the Super Bowl. Like I don't know when baseball happens, right? Okay. But I know when the baseball players are here in town training at the facility, because all of a sudden Lamborghinis pull up to the sushi restaurant that I like with like this. Like all of a sudden there's just a crap ton of Ferraris and Lamborghinis like at the restaurants that I like to go to. And that's where they come from. Those guys, they're in town and they just have those cars. So this is the same pearl green, like Lamborghini kind of color. So again, that's why I appreciate it. And look at that top carve too. So, and this also satisfied my, my want for a crazy BC Rich shape. And when somebody goes, how come all your guitars are basically Strats or Les Paul's shapes? I go, I got a couple of those weird things, but I don't pull this stuff out. So let me know if you enjoyed the deeper cuts. If I should I usually pull from the wall here or this closet, but I never think to go into my the other part, more personal area. All right. Let's see. Oh, somebody says the Dodgers played the Cubs today. Do you guys want to hear a baseball story? Let me know. Seriously, I have one baseball story. I don't know anything about sports, but I do have one baseball story, and it's crazy. It's a crazy story. So if anyone says yes, I'm going to do it. Otherwise, I'm moving on. Somebody says yes, do the deeper cuts. Cool. Anyone want a crazy baseball story? Last chance. I'm moving on. Okay, we're going to stick with guitars. No baseball. Average Joe says no to the baseball story. Okay, somebody says do it. All right, I'm going to do it. So here's a funny, crazy story. All right. I told you I grew up kind of lower middle class poor. That's the best way to put it. It's just for reference. My mother, however, did not grow up lower middle class poor. She grew up upper class, well off, I would say. Right? Okay, this is important to the story. So my grandfather was mayor, okay, of a town, in a small town. Doesn't matter. Small town in California. Don't want to give too many details. You guys can figure out stuff. The important part is my grandfather was mayor of a small town in California, and his last name was McKnight. And funny thing happened was apparently the owner of the Dodgers, I don't know this stuff, but I'll tell you why it's funny. Apparently the owner of the Dodgers at the time when my grandfather was mayor was Irish. Now, none of this means anything to us until my grandfather passed away when I was 17 years old. So when I was 17 years old, I have his mayor badge on the other wall. I'd show it to you, but it will tell you what city, and I don't want you to know that yet. Okay, so anyways, here's why the story's funny. So when my grandfather passed away, we had to go through his belongings. And in his chest, I don't know what you call it, like the foot chest at the end of the bed, my grandfather had like a dozen old baseballs, all signed by the Dodgers. I'm like, okay, keep in mind, you think I'm not into sports? My grandfather was not into sports. So he has like a chest full of all, like a dozen, not quite a dozen, just a lot, okay? Like a lot of signed Dodger baseballs, all signed by the Dodgers, which is weird, right? Weird thing to find in your grandfather's chest. Then we found a newspaper, right? Okay, so like LA Times, and it says, Mayor McKnight throws first ball at the Dodger Stadium. And we're like, what? Now, keep in mind, I'm 17. I never heard of this. My mother's like, what? Right? This is 100% true. I have the ball. I have the badge. I have the article in the paper. So apparently one day, the governor of California was supposed to throw this ball at the Dodger Stadium. This is the story we found out on the article. We found it out in the article. We didn't even know my whole life growing up. Didn't know. No one knew in the family. Grandfather, the governor's going to throw the ball. Governor can't do it. So they needed another person. The owner of the Dodgers, scrolling down all the politicians, sees McKnight, thinks, oh, that's an Irish lad, I guess, right? Sees McKnight. They call my grandfather. My grandfather apparently must have just left, got in a car and drove, right, to the Dodger Stadium. Didn't tell anyone, right? And threw the ball at the Dodger Stadium. The first ball, the first pitch, whatever. Okay. Now we were like, why would he not tell us this story? How is it possible this man could do something so cool? Mayor of a town throws a first ball at Dodger Stadium. Well, we also read the article and found out why there's like a dozen balls. That's how many it took to get over the plate before he finally got one over the plate. So he was a little embarrassed by it. We think, because he never talked about it. But the good news in the story is everyone in my family has a signed Dodgers ball, because there was enough for all the cousins. Everybody got one, basically. So we all have a signed ball from the Dodgers from my grandfather's first pitch that apparently took a bunch before it got over the plate. And he never told anyone ever. So I sometimes think about the fact that he threw this pitch and then drove home, kept all the balls, right? Put them in the chest, and then that was the end of that. So that's my Dodgers. That's my only baseball story. I have no other baseball stories, but that one's a crazy, crazy one. I can tell you for sure. And so to this day, I have his badge, and my son actually has the ball. So I gave the ball to my son. So the McKnights, not so great at sports, is what I'm trying to say. All right, I got to get back to guitar stuff. I'm sorry. Let's do Shadow Animal. Says, hey, I own a PRS S2. The finish is flaking. So yeah, it's an older one. PRS warranty department said they have to sand off the finish and may remove some of the wood. I get hand pain if the neck shape is wrong for my hand. Any advice? So they're probably talking about sending it to the PTC shop. Is there, I think what's around. I would imagine they're not going to reshape the neck very much. The worst case is, the neck might be thinner. Especially if they're going to do this under warranty, I would say to do it, but be prepared that when you get it back, if you don't like it, it's going to have to move on. There's nothing they can do. I've said this before, my PRS S2, the one I love, has a chipped fretboard. Same thing. The fret sprout occurred and it pushed the material away from the fret and it chipped off. If in my case it chips off, I was able to super glue them back in. That's what they would do too. They inject super glue and kind of press it and clean it all up. But in a couple of mine, it just chipped right off. And then I just sanded it smooth. Because I decided at that point it's just gonna be a workhorse guitar, and I just don't care about how it looks at that point. It's not a great feeling, but Also, I like to point out again, because it's always nice to have reference. I paid $700 for that guitar, so although $700 is a lot of money, on its worst day, it's worth $700. So at no point am I worried about it, because one day if I ever go, I'm gonna get rid of it. It's what I paid. Even in its condition, I would expect to get $600-700 for it as a used guitar, especially they don't make it anymore. You're not probably in that same scenario, so I would imagine why this is a little bit more upsetting to you. I would, however, if they're willing to do it as a warranty, I would suggest doing it. And then I would also put in a request that they understand that, you have hand pain if the neck gets really small. And you can, I don't know what they're willing to do or not. Just make the request is what I'm trying to say. Make the request. Let them be the assholes that don't want to do it, right? But just go, hey, look, I appreciate you taking care of this, but, I have hand pain if, because the neck shape's really important to me, and I don't want you really changing the neck shape or making it thinner, because, again, they can't make it thicker, but they can make it thinner. Put that note, make sure there's a notation to the tech who's doing it, the person at the factory doing it, and they could go a little lighter and not go so deep. My guess is that they're not going to do, it's not that they're going to make it right for you. It's just, it lets them know not to go heavy handed. And that's all you really want. In my opinion, if they sand that material off and reshoot it and give it back to you, unless they go to town and just sand too much material away, you should be fine. So, I wouldn't worry about it. But especially if you can make a notation, and if they have a place for you to do notation, do that. If they don't, write a note, stick it in the strings for the person that's getting the guitar. Say, hey, please read, and then just write short. Keep it simple, right? 2 sentences, right? Hand pain. Please try to make the next day as original as possible. Like, don't tell a story. Don't talk about your dog. Just keep it simple, right? Because people who have to work all day, you know how it works, right? They don't have time for that stuff. They're just going to go. But even if they do have a place for you to do it, stick that letter in there too. Send it to the tech. In my experience, most of the people at PRS, the employees, are really cool. They're some of the best people I've met in this industry as a whole. As employees, and it's not to take away from any other factories I've been to, but a lot of the factory workers at factory you could just tell they're just there and they're just punching their clock and they want to get the hell out of there. A lot of the PRS employees are passionate because of the fact that one thing that PRS has that I'm not saying not all factories have, but one thing that PRS has is, look, the COO Jack Higginbotham, he was a sander. Like a lot of the people in the executive team, a lot of people who run PRS started there sanding guitars. So there's a lot of like working towards something kind of feel there. You can tell with the employees, like, they care a little bit, because there's the only thing in my experience, the only thing better than, well, nothing's technically better than a pay raise, is an opportunity. So even though they're like, hey, if I work here 5 more years, I get another $1.50 an hour, that's not as exciting as if I work here 5 more years, I can be my boss. I can be his position, and he'll be in the next position, kind of thing. So that's my suggestion to you. And but yeah, it sucks. My guess is, if you notice, I guess that you have the old finish. I have not seen any of the new Nitro do anything, have any issues whatsoever, which is why Paul Reed Smith Guitars says that they switched to Nitro in technically all models US June, July of 2020. It's when they came back from COVID, is when they went all 100% Nitro on all the guitars. They said it was for tone. I believe, and I have no facts, just discussions like you and my experience working on them, is that's what they were trying to prevent, is guitars doing that, because the guitars were doing that. The finish pulls away from the bodies or the necks, and then you get this milkiness, and it was just something that that they corrected. I'm just glad to hear that they're going to take care of it. You didn't say they're going to take care of it, because sometimes what they've said is just like, send it to us and you can pay us to fix it. So I'm glad that they're actually taking care of it. If they're paying for it, I think that's the right thing to do. I'm not really a big fan of their whole like, yeah, we could fix it, but you got to pay us kind of vibe. But so let me know how it goes. That's my advice. Shadow Animal. Please, stuff like this, just put in the text to the email to us, something in subject that lets me know that you're responding to this later. Let me know. That way you don't have to super chat me again to tell me, so I can tell everybody. I'll queue it up and have it ready on a show. Mr. S says, hey, Harley Benton Keith Richards tribute. Should I, 1, put a snake bite in the bridge and Northern Lights in the neck, or 2 different single coil in the bridge for the Keith-like tone over the snake bite? Oh, that's tough. Easy, snake bite, not easy. I don't know. I want to say snake bite just because I think it's gonna be fine. Depends on how accurate you want it to be. I'll put it this way. Obviously, look, you're asking, so you're on the fence. Let me see if I can help you. In my experience with artist guitars, I always think, if I get this artist guitar, I'll have their sound or their tone. And a lot of them are their way their instruments play, sound, and feel is unintuitive to their tone. And not every scenario, but a lot of them. And so I would say do the snake bite over the 2 single coils, because like I said, a lot of times when I get the exact same thing the artist has, it just doesn't vibe. And because again, it's made for their playing sound and style and technique, and not yours. Even if you're trying to emulate what they're doing, you're going to emulate what they play, but not how they play it. Not exactly. That's why, one of my favorite sayings I ever heard, and he probably got it from somewhere, I don't know, but Tim Pierce once said to me on a video, so you guys say, I guess he said it to you guys too, that all guitar players have a DNA, their DNA of how they play and how their rhythm and their, right? It's all in their DNA, their playing DNA. And that's the part that you can't, you're going to be missing that. So when you go too exact on the gear, it's not going to help, because you're missing still a part of the DNA. Okay. Ian says, hey, what US gear should I get before things potentially get too tariffed in the UK? Go big or scoop up the small stuff? Real question, not a dig. Well, besides that potential tariff issue, which hopefully will get resolved, right? They all out there fighting it out. If you notice, it's not that I want to talk about those subjects. We'll talk about those subjects. I just don't want to talk politics, just like I don't want to talk religion, because it takes us into a place where we're not talking about guitars. If it's specific to guitar, we'll stick with it a little bit. I don't know, because I don't have anything in me that says I need to hurry up and get anything before tariffs start on this side, kind of the thing. I would say, regardless of what the world is doing, everything's going to get more expensive, because that's the way it's always gone. Does it make sense? So right now, I would say buy whatever you want, not because of the governments and stuff. I'm getting water. Hold on. But because this is a good time to buy. The market's soft, right? And the fact that it's soft is it's a buyer's market. There's a reason why it's called a seller's market and a buyer's market. We were in a seller's market during the boom. Now we're in a buyer's market. And this is when you want to buy stuff if you want to buy. If you have the money, right? Don't put yourself into debt for anything. But if you have the money, buy something because it's a good time. And then big stuff or small stuff, just buy what you want. Don't try to predict. Again, I'm not here. I can't give political advice. I can't give finance advice. I can't give any of that stuff. I'm just going to give you gear friend advice, right? I treat you like I was talking to my buddy Joe or Matt or Ralph. Buy what you love. Buy it when it's the right price. So if you find a deal on something you love, buy it. Don't freak buy anything. You'll always be sorry, right? There's a reason why this is gear and not stocks. This is a reason why it's gear and not gold. This is a reason why it's gear and not, the housing market, right? There are people who are professionals at buying and selling. And I know you're not talking about buying and selling and flipping guitars, but I'm just saying if you're trying to find a deal, look for the deal. Don't worry about how much do I get before it's too late. There's always going to be a deal. Even if they tear up the hell out of everything, trust me, there always will be a deal. Everything keeps happening and there's always a deal. Right? Even during COVID, I bought a bunch of guitars and I never paid top dollar for guitars. I never. Because during COVID, if you watched during COVID, what I did, and it's just the way because again, I'm not buying and selling for a strategy to make money. I'm buying because I have this addiction. I love guitars and I want one. During COVID, if you watch, I only bought new, and I told you this because the dealers were more apt to give you a deal than the individual sellers. So used prices skyrocketed. So I'm like, right, but there's always a dealer who's willing to move a unit. So anything I wanted, I would normally look at used. I was looking at new, and I bought a lot of new stuff, less than used. And one of the things I still laugh about is there's two guitars I bought during COVID that I bought new during the biggest part of the boom, and I bought them, and now even with the crash, they're still worth more used than I paid new for them now because, again, it was just the right time. So you just gotta wait. So I don't think, you know what? I know I ramble, but sometimes you get a clear moment of intelligence out of me. Here's what it is. You don't hurry for a deal. You wait for a deal. That's how it works. So you don't hurry up and do stuff. You wait. Don't worry about what the world's going to do. You wait. When you'll know when it's right to buy, it's the right price, it's the right thing. You just trust your instinct to do what you want. You love it, it's a good price, you just go. Notice same thing with the Kaizen. I was I knew eventually the prices would come down. If I was wrong, what was I going to lose? I wasn't going to pay I wasn't going to pay $4,000 for this guitar. I wasn't going to pay $3,500 for this guitar. So I just waited. Same thing. Buy what you love if there's an opportunity. If not, wait. It'll eventually come down, or you'll find the deal. The prices overall don't come down. The opportunities come. Does that make sense? So if I said, all Fender Strats are going to be more in 5 years new than they are now, that's an absolute fact. But you'll still find a deal in 5 years just like you'll find now. That's my thought. Because I found a deal 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 5 years ago, and now. So there you go. Don't hurry for a deal. Wait for one. That's my advice. Okay, T-Size says, hey, happy Friday, new guitar week. I'm assuming that's what W stands for. I received a PRS DW CE24, Dusty Warren, and a McKnights S2 594 10th anniversary. Both beautiful and play and feel amazing, and the cost between 35 to 40% of their MSRP. See what I'm saying? The deals. And it says, if anyone is in the market for a PRS, now is the time, it seems. I agree. It's a good time. If you're so inclined to want something, I told you, I can't even look at anything on Reverb without somebody sending me an offer or a deal. And I told you guys, you just wait. I told you, I just recently, I bought a pedal where I told you the story that I sent a guy an offer and he immediately, he was offended with my offer. And this is funny. And I found one of the Guitar Center used for half of what he was asking and $50 less than what I offered him. And I looked the other day, I don't know why, and it's still for sale. And he's waiting, and somebody will eventually probably pay him his price. But obviously, I waited and I found the deal. And I got what I wanted, which is, and it keeps money in your pocket, which is nice. Moreloud.com says, hey, Phil, could my heavy gauge strings damage my guitar? 16, 18, 20 plain 38, 48, 60 standard tuning on my Fender Custom Shop Dick Dale. Man, you're a beast. You're playing a bass. That's not a guitar anymore. 16 to 60. Could it damage it? I wish I remember what Dick Dale... I thought Dick Dale used 13s. Why are you using 16s? What the hell's wrong with you? He's like, here's my problem, Phil. I crush skulls for a living. Like, you have gorilla paws. That's crazy. That's nuts. 16 to 60. Never seen that. I'm trying to think now. I've done some crazy setups on guitars. If I've done anything close to those gauges, 60 I've definitely done. 62 gauge on a string, easy. Especially like a 7-string, a baritone. But 16, it's usually down-tuned. Holy hell, your standard tuning? I would say, I mean, me personally, I would like a more modern neck with a stronger truss rod and carbon fiber rods behind all that tension. But I'm going to say I don't know of any reason why it would hurt your neck. What's nice is maple is really strong. It's coming from the custom shop. So depending on the model, well, it's a Dick Dale model. So depending on the year, it could be quarter sawn, it could be flat sawn. If it was quarter sawn and it was from the custom shop, I'd say trust it. If it's flat sawn, you know what? Either way, trust it. I mean, that's the whole point. I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's just, that's a lot of tension. Yeah, and I don't worry about like lowering the tension because it could be worse. Just keep the tension on it. I hate this kind of advice because I just never have seen that exact gauge set, that much tension on full standard. I just can't imagine it's that bad. Moreloud.com says, I'm a Dick Dale tribute artist. Well, freaking, that's awesome. Dick Dale was the man. So ferocious as a player. You know, I have this great picture I always remember of Dick Dale. It's me and Ralph were walking the NAMM show. It was one of the first NAMM shows where we went. And Dick Dale was standing there and we're like, we got to get a picture with Dick Dale, which we did. He was really kind and he did a picture with me and Ralph. And what we remember was we had to stand there and we're waiting for him. And the whole time he was talking to this like young lady and he was like, it was amazing. It was, I can't remember his age. I thought he was in his 70s something. Just remember like he was talking to this girl and we're waiting, but he was super nice. But man, he massive, awesome player. So I would say you're fine. Because 60, I can't imagine 60 is the problem. It's just the 16, the 18. The 20 plane is a little thick too, but 38, 48. Yeah, I say okay. You know what? It's the same neck construction for a 7-string, and the 7-string would be at standard, worst case, if you went 11s. 11 to 62 is where I think you would end up. And they wouldn't change any design for the 7-string. So I feel pretty confident you're safe. I can't imagine. But again, you know, this is where no one really knows until they do it. But I think you're relatively safe. I'd say you have an 80% chance of being successful and not having issues. So I feel pretty confident in that. Russell says, hey, Phil, thoughts on Fender's Meteora or guitars with similar body shapes? I fell in love with the angular offset shape and the reviews look good. I love the Meteora. To me, it's the Fender's attempt at a Novo, right? So when I see the Fender Meteora, let's go here. Meteora. For those that, okay. There you go. When I see this shape, so hold on. Let's back up. Oh, I pulled up a bass. One more time. And a guitar. Let's do this. I just want to share it with everybody. Here's a guitar. So here's a $2,200 one. This is an Ultra. So this is the Meteora guitar that we're talking about. And then what I'd like to do, if you guys all see the shape, which is, it's kind of out there and crazy, right? Coming from someone who just showed you the Shira guitar. Let's look at a Novo. And I know they're not the same, but to me, I feel like it's got that same kind of vibe. So here's a Novo. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am wrong. I mean, they're different. right? No, they're different. I don't know why I thought it was like a Novo. It just had a weird vibe. I like it. So I like it. I'm for all the weird shapes. What I've learned about Fender is, and weirdness and all the weird stuff they do, the most part, those actually go up in value. So again, I know we talk about that. It's not always about like the stock market, buy low, sell high, but I'm just saying sometimes when you take chances on things, that's what you're doing all the time. You're doing an approximation of like what it is that you're going to love. It's a lot nicer knowing you can, sell it and get rid of it and not lose any money. Because so many times you buy stuff and you lose money, and that's the whole point of collecting and buying and trying and playing is, trying things. But I've learned with Fenders and their weird stuff, they always seem to never do well in the short term, and then they stop making it, and then the prices go up, and then they bring them back. So I like it. I like the guitar. I think it's cool. So I'm a fan. I would love to do a deep dive of one of those. I'd like to put them on the channel. I'm sure it's going to happen. I have a bunch of guitars, obviously, for the channel queued up. We have at least 2-3 months worth of guitars, so I'm pretty excited about what's coming. But a Meteora would be something I'd like to add. Mike, okay, how are we doing time? We're good. Mike Coffee says, oh, by the way, no more super chats. Mike Kofi says, I'm messing up your name, Mike. How about Mike? Mike says, hey, Phil, have you tried a Warm Audio Centavo pedal? Okay, so that's their Klon. Yep, you said right there. It's a replica of their Klon pedal. I have not. I tried their other pedals. They sent me some pedals. I did the videos, and then, they never reached out again. Of course, I didn't reach out to them, but they didn't reach out to me again. And I love those pedals. The ones I did, which was like OCD, and the other pedal I did. But yeah, that was a pedal I was really considering looking at getting. So again, if you guys don't know, let's look. They're carried by Sweetwater. Warm Audio. They do microphones. I like the Warm Audio stuff. They're kind of like a Behringer kind of thing where they're making. Here's the red one. I know they have a gold one. Oh, there's the gold one. Oh wow. Well, man, the red one seems like a better deal. Because the gold one's like $179. Yeah, I haven't tried it. Here's the red one. You can get the red one for $149. What's the silver one? So one's $149. Nope, it's $179. So weird. So I guess red's discounted. But anyways, it's a Sweetwater exclusive. Yeah, I'd rather have red just because I don't care about the color for a few bucks. But anyways, I haven't tried it. Imagine it's good. Everything I've tried from them has been really, really good. I know, like a lot of you, I'm really curious about the new Behringer one. That's $69. But to answer your question, I haven't tried it, but I like Warm Audio. If you're thinking about getting one, you said it's a great pedal. You're telling me that it's a great pedal. I have no doubt about that. I've tried like 4 or 5 Warm pedals, and everything I've tried, I've been very pleased with. Sam says, why don't all new guitar brands use contoured heels? So there's a lot of reasons for that. First of all, tradition, right? A lot of guitar companies like Fender and Gibson live in a hell of like, if they modify their guitar, we don't like it. Notice I said we. It's not like I'm like, I would love it if they do it. I don't own any of the contoured Gibson Les Pauls. Because as much as I think they're cool, I'm just like, nah, if I want a Les Paul, I want a traditional feel. If I want a Fender, I want a traditional feel. So I think that's why most of it don't do that. Other than that, I don't know why companies don't drive towards it. Because again, at the end, they make what the consumer wants. And we tend to, like things traditional. We want traditional guitars, traditional stuff. When we want modern guitars, modern stuff. Clan of House Cats says, hey, as long as Music Man fretboards get hydrated regularly, like most guitars, they tend not to fret sprout. Hydrating new guitars is good to do too. No. So here's where we're going to disagree. No. Look, hydrating your fretboard is not gonna stop fret sprout. In my experience, humidifying the room isn't going to stop a fret sprout. So the neck shrinking. The neck shrinks. It's because here's why. You can't control those things all the time. It's impossible. So, and when I say impossible, so you don't challenge me, yeah, if you keep it in a case, hydrated and conditioned on a regular basis. But that's not what a guitar is for. A guitar is for travel. It's an instrument that's portable, you might say. Like, think about this. If you had a choice as a guitar player to show up at a gig tomorrow, and you could either load in the grand piano, the drum set, or the guitar, which one would you pick? The guitar. It's a portable instrument. The funny part is we make guitars called travel guitars. Literally all guitars are travel guitars. Travel guitars now are about the airlines, right? I don't use a travel guitar for my truck. I just take a guitar with me. I take a travel guitar because the airline has decided to be a pain in the ass and say, here's how much space you have and here's how much weight you have and this is how it is. Always, I lose my voice. So my point is, in my experience, and I have a lot of it around now, especially not as just a guitar tech, but just as this YouTube gig has taken me all over the world and had me interact with so many people, it just, you can't stop it. You know, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So that's what I've learned. You're going to play in a dry place. Your guitar is going to be in a dry environment. It's going to get, it's going to be in a hot climate. It's going to be in a cold climate. It's literally, unless you don't take it anywhere. And that's, so you're technically correct, but in my experience, the way to secure that fret sprout never happens is essentially to stop the guitar from doing the one thing it should do, which is be played and taken places to be played. So, the good news though is that fret sprout is a relatively easy fix. And once the neck shrinks, and I live in a dry climate. So like, there's things like, I just can't tell you guys, like, when you guys talk about dehumidifiers, I'm like, I have no idea what to tell you about a dehumidifier. I can tell you though, that currently in the office, it's 45% humidity right now. I do have a humidifier going right now because it was down to 38 again. I don't like it to get under 40. And only until recently when I've been opening the window lately, I've been telling you guys, I usually don't do humidification, but I've been running the window open a lot because the weather's been so nice. So my point is that usually I don't recall ever having to correct fret sprout on one single guitar more than 2 times. So I have done like a fret treatment on a personal guitar, on a customer's guitar, and then seen that guitar need it one more time. Like it shrank again a little bit more, but I've never seen it shrink a third time. Does that make sense? Because pretty much once it's dried and it's not going to expand back out. As much as people say, oh, you can humidify back. You can, trust me, because there's a lot of things repairs that you humidify a guitar. So there's a lot of stuff. I did a repair this week on an acoustic guitar, and that's the first thing I did was humidify it because of the repair I was doing. That's the first thing you want to do is humidify it for 24 to 40 hours. But in my experience, you cannot make the neck go back to where it was. That's the whole point of the wood. The wood is just not really, it doesn't want to expand back out. It just doesn't want to do it. So, like I said, that's the whole thing. It's not a bad thing. It's like if your response is more about the whole, like whose fret sprouts more than others, it has to do with just, again, the precautions they take to prevent it and how well they do that. I think PRS has done a pretty good way to do that, precautionary wise. Gibson, I don't think it's necessarily how they treat their wood. I think it's just the design of having really thick binding, because again, the neck is essentially glued, the wood is glued to this plastic binding that's pretty thick. And then the frets are cut short for the nibs to go over, the plastic nibs to go over. And it just, again, the wood doesn't shrink enough. And when it shrinks, the glue is holding it to that plastic, and the plastic really doesn't want to move because the plastic is not affected by the moisture. It's just affected by the temperature. So again, if I put it in a room at 72 degrees, if I put a Gibson in a room at 72 degrees and I dry it, I take all the moisture out of the room, yeah, the neck's going to shrink, but it's just the fretboard's going to hold it. It's going to like be pulling on it almost. And that's just my theory based on what I've seen all over the years. But the Kaizen, when I got it out to show you guys today, it had fret sprouted for the first time. So it's fret sprout. It happens. So my guess is it's because of ebony fretboard. So But I'll concede to you're partially right and I'm partially right. But I really, like I said, I think the idea of like to have a guitar not do a fret sprout is just not realistic for most players. They're just not going to do it. The ones that obsess about it and try not to have it happen, I always just notice that eventually it just happens. Like, like I said, you can't control the environment around you. It's just too hard. DJB, thank you for the super chat. Parker says, hey, Phil, when you've been recording your new instrument EP, are you miking an amp or just going straight into your interface with amp modeling all in a box? So I've been doing both. So what I've been doing is miking the amp, and I also use the aux box, so the amp into the aux box. Interesting enough, I'm not using the Kemper. All the people who have guest played on it I think they've used plugins because I send them a file and then they tend to use plugins, I think. But I've been either miking it or using the aux box. I've been mostly using the aux box because I like the aux box a lot. So it's pretty easy. But yeah, why? No particular reason. No. I don't have an agenda with the songs, right? So there's nothing that's saying like, I want it to be an Axe FX or a Kemper kind of album, or I want it to be a real album with real mics. There's going to be none of that stuff. I know because I'm a gear channel that as I put this stuff out, obviously you've been hearing the stuff played. The backing track I played for you today is off, the EP thing I'm doing. A lot of stuff you've been hearing lately is the riffs and songs I've been doing for that. Again, keep in mind, most of this is just because I just I'm not trying to record an album and have an album so much to like, I have an album and buy my album. It's because I think the future is they're going to copyright strike anyone and everyone for anything. And so you want to have as much as your own IP as possible so that they don't hinder your livelihood. I feel like I'm one of the very few, especially in the gear channel world, I'm one of the very few channels that can make a living off of YouTube. When I say that, keep in mind what I mean. Most channels that do gear reviews, they make their living off the sponsorships. They need companies sponsoring their videos. My last 5 videos, 2 were sponsored and 3 weren't, right? And look, in a perfect world, I wouldn't do any sponsorships, but it's a little hard, right? It's a little hard to do that, because again, I can, if I only had to, if I didn't have any costs of doing YouTube, I definitely make more than enough money that I need. There's just no questions. I would do 0 sponsorships at this level as long as I maintained it. And that's been the way for the last few years. The problem is there is a lot of costs to do YouTube. And more importantly, and probably more accurately, there's a lot of failures on YouTube. In other words, I make a video and that video doesn't pan out. And so ultimately that starts your mind down a spiraling, if anyone lives off of a commission kind of structure, you understand what I'm saying. It's like when all of a sudden you have a bad week or a month, even though you're like, I'm fine, bills are paid, your brain goes, but what if I keep having a bad month next month, right? And then that spirals you down in a world and your creativity is hindered from that. So I like having a little backup plan like the patrons and of course having a couple of company sponsors come in. But my point is the album, it's more about protecting that, because what happens is when I make $1,000 or I make $100 on a video, the last thing I need is YouTube to send me a message saying, hey, so-and-so has claimed your video profits. And I'm like, well, that's literally what I live on, right? So I'm like, I better have music that, so you can't stop them from doing it. Just because I'm playing my own songs doesn't mean that they won't copyright strike me. What I'm saying is it's a lot easier fight to respond back with, this is my song, it is copyright, I own it. I have the copyright on it. And then that helps me with the fight. So that's why I've decided to do that. It's just how I do things. If you notice, it's also why I try to limit as many logos as you see, as I wear a Vans hat today. Normally. So a lot of people are like, man, he wears a lot of Know Your Gear stuff all the time. Well, if you pay really close attention, I'm really actually blocking a lot of stuff from you. What you think you see, you don't see. A lot of you don't understand is that a lot of these headstocks, I keep some of them out of range, you can't see. And as they get farther, I tilted the camera purposely for this. The Ibanez is slightly out of focus right there that I'm pointing at. That's on purpose. We set the camera correctly so that the logos are, you can tell that's a Fender logo, unless Fender says they have a problem with it, then no one can tell it's a Fender logo. But a bot shouldn't be able to read that. Not that I can tell. So the Vans thing was a weird thing today. I just grabbed a hat and here for everybody. It's too late in the show, but there. I don't wear my garb in public, so I was in public today. So I was wearing my Vans hat. My point is, what's my point? My point is that's why I have all my own stuff. I'm just trying to predict the future, and I'm trying to predict the fact that in 5 years, in theory, if they were to go back through my catalog with some kind of AI and scan all the music and scan all the visuals, and somebody say, hey, you used a Fender amp in a video, and Fender wants a portion of this, whatever the copyright strike. I just don't want to deal with any of that stuff. And since I don't know the future, I'm just preparing the best I can for it like everybody else. And that's why I do that stuff. So everything's about just having some kind of copyright that I know they can't hit me for. So that's the point of the music. So, but as a gear channel, I will disclose on all this stuff what I used in each track for those that are curious. What I can't disclose is like what Larry Mitchell used or what, Michael Nielsen used. I'll ask them, but I mean, I'm assuming they use some kind of XFX or plugins or something. And I'm sure you can tell when you listen to it, when you hear them playing and they sound better and you're like, oh, that's they use the better stuff. So, yeah. All right. Okay. Let's do one more subject / question before we go. I didn't really get take a lot of Amanda's ones. Let's see. Let's do this one. I'll do 2 from Amanda's pile real quick. So this is, I don't know how to say your name, buddy. Talonso. I'm sorry if I'm doing it wrong, but it sounds like that. He says, looking for guitar cabinets. Recently bought a cheap Bajera head amp, and I don't have a cab. Any suggestions to where to look? Yeah, local. Now, I don't know where you are, but local is always best. No one wants to ship any amps. Yeah, have you noticed amps are like almost, have you guys been on Reverb? I feel like half of the people selling amps, it says local pickup only. No one wants to ship amps, and definitely not cabinets. There's no money in that. So definitely local. And sadly enough, I'm not a real big, work them for a deal, but you kind of like local cabinets. Oh man, you should be able to get a cabinet for that amp dirt cheap. Get yourself, go on Craigslist, or if you have an offer up or whatever, right? Or if not, go to a local music store. Trust me, they're sitting on them. They're all sitting somewhere, cabinets. And then just find yourself a good cabinet with some good speakers, right? I focus on speakers more than cabinet. That's just my preference. In my experience, I focus on, I would rather, me personally, I'd rather have a Line 6 cabinet with vintage 30s than a Marshall cabinet with GT75s, right? That's just my preference. I'd rather have a Bajera cabinet with creambacks than a Mesa Boogie cabinet with, crate speakers, right? Because I don't know why that would exist, but, right? Just saying, I buy the speakers in the cabinets. When I say I don't literally take them out. That's what I value, right? Is the speakers. Good cabinets with cheap speakers to me sound like crap, and crappy speakers or crappy cabinets with good speakers sound good, because the mic usually hears the speaker way more than the cabinet. I understand if you're not miking stuff and recording stuff, but in my world for a long time, the speaker dictates the quality more so than the cabinet. So that's where I kind of focus my money. So same thing, if I saw a crate cabinet with vintage 30s, I'd buy that in a second over, again, and I know you're like, well, what if I get a good cabinet and I put good speakers? That's a sucker's game. You'll lose your ass. So it's not a good idea. So like I said, go out and find a deal. Bigger cabinets, cheaper. The bigger the cabinet, the cheaper it is to get. That's what you do. Just go out there and throw offers. Politely throw them out, right? Just do it. Say, hey, look, I'll give you $200 for the thing you're asking for. Just throw out some nice offers, because of the fact that they might not respond right away, but in 3-4 weeks when it's still sitting there, But I can tell you right now, like, I don't know why, if this would be a good video. I don't think it'd be a good video. But like, if you guys challenged me, said, hey, Phil, what's the best cabinet you could get dirt cheap? I'm pretty sure I could probably take $200 cash right now and find a cabinet somewhere. 112, 212, or 412. Without a doubt. I don't think I had any trouble finding that. In fact, I can't even do that deal. Here's why. I know exactly where a bunch are right now. So it'd be an easy video to make. I know what music stores I would drive through. I would drive right to them. If you are also in the States, I would also look at Guitar Center used, man. They are crazy in where they ship amps. They ship amps for like a nickel. It's crazy. You can go on Guitar Center used and find like a 412. They'll ship it to you for $23. It is nuts. So do that. So that's funny story. I told you guys, funny haha story. I needed some speakers recently, and I went on Sweetwater and I was like, $179 a speaker. I'm like, holy crap. So you know what I did? I went out looking and I found it. I found a 212. I only needed one. So I was like, okay, I'm going to, so $200, $195 with tax, $200 for one speaker. Let's see what I can do. Took me no time at all. I found a 212 with the speaker I wanted, the one I wanted. But it had two of them in the ohms I needed, right? 16 ohms for $200. So now I have an extra speaker for free, which I figure I'll sell it for $50 to $100 and see. And then the cabinet for $20, $30. Because it's funny. Like it's even though the cabinet was a boat anchor to somebody, the speaker is definitely valuable. So yeah, always. 60 Cycle Hum saying Craigslist is full of cabinets, easy to buy, impossible to sell. Yeah, like buying a vacation cabin. Yeah, cabin. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's nuts. I think I told you guys a few months ago, I was in the kick. I wanted to get a 59 Bassman, and I was like, they're so cheap, right? They want $2,020. I think it's $2,100 new for a Fender 59 Bassman, right? I know a lot of you like are probably having shock right now. I'm not making this up. I need to look. I'm pretty sure they're $2,100. $2,100. Look at this. Bam. $2,100. You can find this amp used right now for $1,000. No exaggeration. I can find it for $1,000. I just can't find it next to my house right now. So everywhere I find them for $1,000, there was like local pickup. I'm like, I'm not near you, but it's so cheap that I've thought about like, it costs so much to I'm like, I feel like calling them and going, hey, will you just drop it off at a UPS store and I'll just pay them to ship it to me? But I'm like, that'd probably be $300-400. And I'm like, I guess that's still a deal. But I'm like, again, like I said, you wait for the deals. You don't rush to them. Now that it's our new saying. And I just know somebody's going to pop on Craigslist with a 59 Bassman and I'll get it for $1,000, which is half off because no one wants to ship that beast. So yeah. Amps are they're the things that you just look around and wait and find the deal and you'll get it. All right. Is there anything else that I missed? I think we talked about all the stuff. Like I said, I'll be doing the thing with the Guitar Center. I don't know if you saw Guitar Center's closed 2 stores. I saw that. I was going to talk about that in depth and do some research on that. And I thought, well, I'm going to be talking to Guitar Center next week. So I'll try to get the skinny on what that is. I read a little bit. If you guys didn't see, Guitar Center closed 2 stores in California. And I read a couple things about it. They kind of thought the stores were redundant and all these other things. But I figured, hey, you know what? It's a good topic to bring up to the CEO of Guitar Center. It's like, hey, I heard you're closing some stores. Ironically, that literally within 1 week of my prediction that they were closing stores. So I kind of feel a little weird about that. If you guys recall, in December, I said the Guitar Center will close some stores. Literally right after NAMM show, but it was 3 weeks after NAMM show. So I guess it wasn't literally after NAMM show. It was 3 weeks later. But so I was a little, obviously I wasn't shocked to hear what's going on, but I would like to know more before we talk about it. Okay, hold on a second. Oh, Terry says, hey, Phil, I used to take lessons at your place in Chandler. Hope all is well. Nah, it is. Thanks for popping in. I saw that. I wanted to read. Thank you, Amanda, for grabbing that. It's good to hear from you. You know, it's It's especially for me. So, Terry, and then we'll end on this note. I like it when somebody says, hey, I used to take lessons, and and they say hi, because they never do that to me. They always do that to Shauna. Everybody always says hi to Shauna. They see her I'll be in the grocery store. If you're a gear person, you'll stop me and be like, hey, I seen your channel. Whatever we talk about, some gear stuff. But anytime anybody walks up to Shauna, I go, oh, it's students. And it's always like, hey, we took lessons there. They always know Shauna because Shauna handled all that. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for the shout out. And then, okay, hold on a second. Hold on. Richard White says, hey, I was trying to find the headstock that mounts magnetically on the back of an inline 6 headstock. I think it was called the Tuner Ninja. I can't find one online anywhere. Was it discontinued? Funny thing about that, I don't know why I keep saying funny thing, odd thing, is I'm pretty sure, I should just tell you, see, so if I'm wrong, I just look stupid. Oh, it's gone. Yeah, so it's gone. So the funny odd thing was, usually on Reverb, if you would type in McKnight, it came up because he was tagging me in it. But now it's Cotton State's Rag by Annie Ford McKnight. But yeah, so that's the McKnight. Hey, are you searching for Midnight? No. So I'm going to say, yeah, he's not making them, because that's where, I'll try Ninja. Did you try Reverb? Because that's where he was selling them. No, he's not making them anywhere. Because they're not coming up. Let me try one last. And nope. Nope, not coming up. So sorry, I guess he's done. I guess he sold through and he's done. So it happens. It's one of those things, all the companies that come and go. So, oh, Amanda said another customer dropped in too, and I'm sending it to you. Well, let me go back. And okay, this is from Zachary. He says, hey, Phil, big fan. Used to go out to your guitar store as a kid and then into the Zia. Oh yeah, the Zia. And to get some punk records. Thanks for your small role shaping me into a musician. Hey, thanks for giving me any credit for that, Zachary. What's funny is, I remember the Zia before they closed, and it was a hair salon, which is a kind of funny thing. That was them. I want to end on a funny story. So since you were nice enough to bring that up, I'll end on this funny story. It's not that funny, so don't get excited. But this part makes me laugh. There was a Zia Records. So next to my guitar shop was a record store, which is amazing, right? You're like, that's the perfect thing, right? Record store, guitar store is perfect. And then what happened was the shopping center started dying, and that's just how things go in retail world. And dying means there's less traffic, and some of the anchor stores left, and the landlord lost the lease. He lost the building to the bank, and then the bank wouldn't negotiate with any of the tenants because they want to sell it, and they want as high as rent values as possible when they sell the property. So it was really tough towards the end, right? Because you're like, oh man, I'm paying top rent and I want to reduce it, and I can't negotiate with them, even though your lease is up. And so the Zia guys were the first people next to us. They left, and I remember I'm sitting in my store. I'm gonna do this for you. I'm sitting in my store and I don't have my hat on. This is important to the story, and I pride myself on being a pleasant person as much as I can, but sometimes, dumb people just still get under your skin, and they can do it really quickly. And I don't mean to call them dumb, but this was funny. You'll see why in a second. And this person came in our store. I remember it was a woman and a man that came in the store, very well dressed, presented really well. I was probably looking, imagine my store name on this shirt. This is exactly what it looked like, right? So I'm standing there, and they come in. Now remember, the store is full of people. Not full, but you understand. There's my wife. There's people in the store. I'm not the only person standing there. They walk up and they said, hey, my name is so-and-so. I'm like, cool. And they go, we own so-and-so salons. And I go, uh-huh. And they go, we're going to be building a hair salon in the shop next to you. And I'm like, oh. And they go, is there a lot of good hair salons in this area? And I go, how the fuck would I know? There you go. There's my curse word and everything. I was like, and I started laughing. I'm like, and then they laughed. They're like, okay. And then they walked over to my wife. But I was like, I just remember, and I just had to react because I remember just going, it's the weirdest thing everybody came up to me and said. Anyways, by the way, and they're still there to this day, I think, the hair salon. So, okay, so you can know, if you need a good hair salon, that's the only one I know. All right, on that note, you guys have an amazing weekend. Play some guitar. I will see you guys next Friday. Please look for more deep dives as there's more coming. And like I said, any suggestions or comments you guys want to put in the permanent comments of this video on things you think I should bring up or talk to with the CEO of Guitar Center and their mission to improve and do better, I would love to let them know because, like I said, I think it's going to be an interesting conversation. And I'm really happy they're doing it. By the way, there's nothing off the table. They're going to let me talk about whatever we want. So obviously I'm not a rude person by any means, but obviously I have opinions. So I'm sure they're going to hear them. So I'd like to hear your opinions too, because I might want to give them your opinions. All right. On that note, thank you guys so much and have a great weekend and know your gear. And now I'll awkwardly look for the screen that lets me turn off the show. Like I haven't done this 400 times. All right, bye, guys.
The Know Your Gear podcast. Today's episode of the Know Your Gear podcast is brought to you by Patreon members, channel members, and viewers who like and subscribe. Thank you for making this possible.